Lots of examples of people disrespecting the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why they just got to go out and continue to take all of the respect that they think they deserve.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. All you got to do is tap in to that location, whether you watch or listen, to make sure you don't miss an episode. And while we're talking about it, I want to thank you for listening to us here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Reminder that you can follow our shows and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music. So go check that out. And shout out again to the everydayers that join us each and every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We appreciate you and thank you for that. And if you're new here, we'll make you feel like an everydayer, and hopefully I'll give you a reason after about 30 minutes to double back and be an everydayer. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And we give you a roadmap right now where we're going. Keys to victory is where we're going to end up. I'll tell you how I think the Jaguars can win this game, that I think they are going to win. Right in the middle of the show, walking the walk to consistency is super, super important. But that starts with you putting one foot in front of the other and piecing these games together game by game. And right at the very top, game 6. No, not Jordan game 6. But game 6 here in the NFL for the Jaguars this year is just as big as the Monday Night Football game, which is game 5, and that's where we're going to go. No matter who you beat, no matter how you play, people that don't believe in you won't believe in you until it smacks them right in their face. I often call folks hanging on to their narratives the DUI syndrome, and what that means is, and I'm not making light of anybody that has been a victim of someone driving drunk. I am not doing that. But I will tell you that the characteristic that they have is they always believe that they're okay until it actually happens, right? And you get caught or you get pulled over, or worse, you hurt somebody, right? And that's what's going on with people's opinions. They're drunk on their own narratives. And so you can't tell them that the Jaguars did not just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Even Chris Jones says it was luck. Might not have been so lucky had you not been walking on Trevor Lawrence's touchdown. That's just my point. You beat who is in front of you. And if you beat a walking first ballot Hall of Famer on the last play, then that means you won, and it counts in the W column, right? They're 4-1. Folks aren't going to give them the respect that they deserve. I saw a power poll this week recently. The Jaguars are in the top half of the power poll, but the problem is there were 3 teams in front of them that the Jaguars beat already, and those teams have multiple losses. It just gets on my nerves a little bit, but then I remember that a lot of people that write and talk about football, well, they're not very smart, and they don't watch the game. Saw another one this morning. I'm going to name this one Nate Tice, and I'm glad my buddy Jordan DeLugo, who hosts his own Jaguars podcast. By the way, shout out to Jordan Lugo. He went over 10,000 subs on YouTube. We appreciate the work that he does, too. He's been on the show before. Jordan went up against Nate Tice, and Nate Tice said that Devin Lloyd should be on the most improved list, but not anywhere near the top of the so far ballot of defensive players of the year. And you can tell that he just doesn't watch the games. Devin Lloyd has 4 interceptions in 5 games, and one of them was a pick 6 on Monday Night Football versus Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, that Patrick Mahomes. They're just not going to give you credit. I ain't going to even argue back and forth with some of those people. Like my man Lil Duval said, I ain't going back and forth with you. I'll just say idiots, because that's exactly what people are. But I said all of that to say this. You ain't going to get no respect from people that don't want to respect you. Respect ain't something that you demand. It's something that you command. And even when you're 4-1, if they still have these syndromes or being drunk on their own opinions from the past, and basically let you know that when you watch the game, they're not really watching the games that you're watching, you get these opinions, and it ain't even worth arguing with them over. But here's something that the Jaguars can do to alleviate that, because I know we can all be petty, and I know we can all hope that somebody doesn't want to be the voice of reason, that somebody wants to argue on our behalf. Enter your man, Tony Wiggins, because I don't mind a good argument. I'm pretty good at it, actually. It ain't about emotion for me. It's just about common sense. Common sense says, okay, I'll see you Sunday. Line it up. The Jaguars are going to beat the hell out of Seattle. And the reason why I think they're going to beat the hell out of Seattle is because I really do believe that this team, man, is figuring out how to win. They're not playing cleanly, but they're actually able to win. I think they're aiming for, man, can we finally just put a clean game together? Can we just put a game together where all of our good doesn't come in spurts? See, I don't think you can have a consistent season until you start having consistent play throughout a football game. The game is the 4 quarters that you play in a football game should at some point emulate on a smaller scale the 17 games that you're going to play during the season. So that ebb and flow that they have has disappeared in terms of them having a 3-game win streak. Now, they have to focus on making sure that on a micro level, they're doing everything that they can each and every play, moving on to the next play, not getting in a rut, not having self-destructive penalties, especially the ones that are pre-snap. I don't mind the ones when people are just trying hard. And if you see your quarterback's about to get blasted and you just snatch a guy down, well, you probably needed to do that. But, well, first of all, don't let the dude beat you. But if he do, don't let him just have a free hit. And now Trevor Lawrence has discovered something. He's discovered something that looks like he always should have known he had, but he didn't. You got legs. You are not a statue, homie. And that is the thing that the Jaguars defense will be playing against this weekend, because Sam Darnold, while he can move a little bit, would prefer to stand in the pocket and sling the ball because he has a big arm. Trevor, you don't have to make yourself a pocket passer. And it's almost like he played against Patrick Mahomes, who is known for using his legs and did a great job at it last Monday night. And that what Trevor did was say, okay, I'm gonna meet you on the playing field that you have. Whatever you do, I'm going to try to do it too. No, you need to do that when Mahomes isn't over there. You need to do that when you're playing against Joe Flacco. You need to do that when you're playing against Jared Goff. You need to do that. You have to be yourself all the time, man, because that's what you're an expert at. I looked at some highlights from when Ohio State played Clemson in the playoffs a few years ago, and I saw Trevor Lawrence run a touchdown for like 70-some-odd yards. Get back to just being yourself, man, and just playing gritty football, not necessarily backyard or street ball. Somebody said street ball this week, in the context that they said it was totally wrong. But no, just get back to being yourself, man, and just remember who you are without having to look in the mirror. That's how you're going to get consistent. But this game is huge. This game is big, man. It's just as big as the one Monday night. It won't come with all the fanfare. It won't come with all of the you got to slay the dragon mentality and all of that. But it's big because while on the surface it doesn't seem to mean as much to a lot of people around the league and the eyes won't be on it, what it is going to be a measurement of their ability to not smell themselves and their ability to keep their eyes on the prize and their ability to make sure that what they're doing is setting their own standard for themselves and not living or adhering to the standards or trying to placate to the standards and expectations of other people, including their own fan base, including members in the media that ain't going to give you no respect. Don't worry about it. Go out and take it. Punch them in the mouth. Seahawks got a long plane ride coming over here. Lock them in the bank, punish them, and fly them back out. Send them on their way. Make that plane ride back home one that they don't want to remember. That's how you get your respect, one game at a time. We'll talk about walking the walk to consistency for the Jaguars in segment 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side recovered. If you need parts fast for a project, SupplyHouse has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. That is an absolute game changer, man. So join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and the dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. All right, Tony Wiggins here talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars here on a Friday as we get ready for the game. I'll give you some keys to victory as we get closer to the end of the show. But right now, I want to tell you some of the things that they got to do to walk towards that victory. Every single play counts. And if you don't believe that, just look no further than Tyson Campbell. This team improved itself this week by trading Tyson Campbell, who, by the way, was a model citizen, was a professional, and we wish him the best of luck. However, there were plays to be made out there against Kansas City and in the subsequent in the weeks prior to that he just did not make. And I know there's some people that think that everyone that responds to something all of a sudden turns into the "I told you so" guy. The good thing about Locked On Jaguars is we're every day here. We do it the same way, 30 minutes. There's no hiding behind the fact that all you got to do is find out how I did about Tyson Campbell. Go back and listen to past episodes all the way from training camp. And while I have always said that I realize why people think he's great, you see him in camp, you see his whole setup, you see how he takes care of his body, his approach. If you were walking into a football camp and you walked out there on that field, Trayvon Walker, Josh Allen, of course, Travis Hunter, and Tyson Campbell would probably be, if you walked into training camp for the Jaguars, and Devon Hamilton, because I've heard that from a lot of people, they would probably be the four guys, and probably Josh Hines Allen, that you look and go, damn, that is what an NFL player looks like at that position. That is what it looks like, man. And you know what I'm talking about. If you ever played sports, or if you ever evaluated sports, or if you've ever gone to an AAU basketball game when somebody who ended up being a first ballot top 75 player, when you saw them for the first time, you were like, what? That's what he was. But we've also said here that the play has to match. We've also said for years that one of his issues was playing the ball. So there's always been this thought, and Joe Cullen did the same thing when he was here, and he basically said he's better when he sees the ball as opposed to playing man-to-man with somebody. You want him to always be facing the quarterback so he gets that advantage where he can make a play on the ball as opposed to being in a man situation where your back is to the quarterback and then you have to turn, and you and the receiver at the same time how to figure out how to get to the ball, and that is where all hell breaks loose, in my opinion, with Tyson. Well, they play zone, and a lot of times they're off ball, and he still did not thrive the way we thought. So they moved on from him, and they got Greg Newsome, who is probably a little bit better at that one thing than Tyson Campbell. People in Cleveland say he needs to tackle better, but I think the Jaguars want people who can play the ball better. So if anyone thinks that this is not, or this is something that is all of a sudden everybody's going to come up, they might be, but it's not going on here on Locked On Jaguars, because anybody who's an everydayer, they understand and know. And I understand if you're not an everydayer, and if you don't think that I have been saying this for a whole year, that's cool. That's cool. Make yourself an everydayer. But don't be saying that everybody's coming out of the woodwork when it's not everybody. How do they get to the consistency? Well, they get to the consistency by having all gas and no brakes, and realizing and owning up to their mistakes. And Jimmy Gladstone basically did that. It wasn't really his mistake, but they gave it a chance and it did not work. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't move on from somebody else. They moved on from Tank Bigsby, and now Philadelphia fans want to run him out of town because he was doing some dumb stuff up there in a couple of games. So the thing is for me, and this is not the trash of the players that leave here. I wish them the best of luck. But the thing is when you have name familiarity, we've talked about that here so much. When fans fall in love with names. There were people that wanted to fight me when I was saying that they did the right thing for moving on from Evan Ingram and they did the right thing for moving on from Christian Kirk. They don't want to fight me anymore. So it's like you get used to the names and you get used to familiarity and you don't want to change. Well, you look up and I tell you, they're 4-13, bro. How do you get to the point where winning becomes a normal thing? And that's what they're going to have to do. That's why I say this game is so important. I think you take a lead from the leadership up top. You trade a guy after you're 4-1 and you won a game that you weren't supposed to win because you realize that even while winning it, you need to fix some stuff. You got to get things cleaned up. It's one thing to celebrate in the locker room after a win and say, hey, we figured it out. It doesn't matter. Oh, no, it does matter. James Gladstone is doing his job. And this is what everyone has to do this week. They have to do their job. They can't listen to the noise of the fans. They can't listen to that little noise of the little man that's on their shoulder telling them, yeah, y'all 4-1. Y'all should be 5-0, man. Yeah, walk it tall, celebrate. No, you got to think, how did you get that way? You scrapped and scraped and did everything that you were supposed to do to get to that point. Now, guess what you have to do? You got to do it again this week to a team that no one thought was going to be very good. They're now 3-2. Part of the reason why the Baltimore Ravens are struggling is because the dude that ran their defense is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And Sam Darnold had a rebirth, and then they forgot about him and cast him off again. And he feels like, no, I'm still better than that. Jackson Smith and Jigba said, okay, yeah, y'all got rid of DK and y'all got rid of, the other wide receiver that we had here for so long. It escapes my name because he's not there anymore. But now it's up to me. Guess what? Looks like all world. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a problem stopping him last year. That's a hard-nosed football team that's coming in here. And if you're not careful, if you're sitting here thinking about last week, if you're thinking about all of these other things and what people are saying about you, you're going to get beat. But this is why I don't think that this is what these guys are going to do. Because this ain't the same old thing. They're not resting on their laurels. They realize that all three of those games aren't going to help them one bit when it comes to what happens this week. And they're doing it with physicality. And see, when you do it with physicality on both sides of the ball, this is why running the football has been so important. And I have been saying this for years. When you can line up and just beat people in front of you, especially with your offensive line, if things aren't going well for you that day and, the quarterback's a little bit off and the receivers are dropping balls, you can always just say, you know what, get us home. Bust them in the mouth, and we're going to get 3.5 yards of carry. We're going to run this clock out, and we're going to score a touchdown when we get in the red zone. That's exactly what I think the Jaguars can now rely on that they were not able to ever rely on in the past. They were never able to rely on just line it up. In fact, they used to have to throw screen passes and balls behind the line of scrimmage and horizontal, not vertical, and hope somebody makes a play and throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. The walk to consistency for this team is that they can actually line up and move people in front of them when they need to do it. And I just think that is something, and I'm not saying they're the best at it in the league, but you almost got to be one of the top 7 or 8, 9 teams in the league to be able to do that. And right now, the Seahawks' weakness is stopping the run. I anticipate the Jacksonville Jaguars punching them all in the chest, just bullying them this weekend and winning this game. There's only one thing that could derail that plan. I'll tell you what it is in just a second here as we talk about the keys to victory on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL season is in full swing. We are now in week 6, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm telling you, man, it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats and analytics and situations and all of that. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get yourself started with a $5 bet that can win you $300 in bonus bets. All right, let's tap into the keys of victory for this Week 6 matchup against the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks, being hosted by your Jacksonville Jaguars, sitting there at 4-1. I think they got to pound the rock. I think you limit possessions. I would not be surprised if you look up and the Jaguars have 3 or maybe 4 possessions heading into halftime. There are situations where one team has the ball twice in the first quarter and another team only has it once. I think the Jaguars need to do that and then do it again and then create a situation where they get up and it makes Seattle have to abandon the running game. That's why I think it is. I think Seattle struggles in that area. I think Trevor has to be on point. Brenton Strange won't play. I think he has to absolutely be on point, be accurate with the football, convert third downs, make sure they keep the sticks moving, keep Seattle on the field. The heat ain't going to bother them. I heard it's going to be in the high 70s, so that ain't going to be a reason to think that they can wear them down that way. But they can wear them down and force Seattle to stick extra people in the box. And when that happens, make sure you get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. and De'Ami Brown, as well as Travis Hunter, to make them pay. The Jaguars are showing you that they can get chunk plays this year to go along with their running game. But it's going to be a game for Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen to come in and help out Travis Etienne. I expect them to give the ball to running backs about 30 times. That should get them to a dominant 23-10 type game. But if it doesn't, it's going to be because of one reason. That is inopportunity in the form of turnovers as well as penalties. That's the only thing that could derail the Jaguars in this game, in my opinion, because they want to run the ball. That's who they want to be, and Seattle has a hard time stopping the run because of a lot of injuries. So that is where I believe they're going to have the advantage. They're also going to have the advantage in the corners because Witherspoon is banged up. I don't think he's going to play. They're going to have, in my opinion, a very, very big advantage with their wide receivers also, but they have to, don't be tempted to just try to big play this thing to death. I think you have to pick your poison when you're the Jaguars in terms of being judicious, running the football, staying ahead of the sticks. I don't care if you throw it on first down and end up with 2nd and 5 and then you run it twice. I want to see more runs, 60% run, 40% pass in this game. But the only way that they can adhere and stick to that plan is if things like turnovers don't happen. If turnovers happen and Seattle is able to get field position and get easy scores, then the Jaguars now have to come up with another plan, because that plan is to run the clock, is to dominate the game, keep their defense huffing and puffing, limit their offense. If you give the ball to the offense and now you're hustling backwards when you turn the ball over. So there's sometimes in some game plans where turnovers, while it is the kryptonite for every coach, in some situations they're even worse, especially when your game plan is all about ball control and all about keeping the worst part of their team on the field as much as possible, which is their defensive line, because of health issues and their ability to stop the run. It has been a problem for them. You want their worst unit representing them in this game as much as possible. And you can't do that if you turn the ball over or you're constantly getting 3 and outs. And then they start doing that to you on the other side with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet and all of those guys. So that, to me, is what it comes down to. If the Jaguars can win a game that way, almost the way they played against Carolina, kind of the way they played against Houston, a little bit, not quite, because that was a weird game, but almost the way that they played against Carolina. And I expect their defense to continue to be in lights out. Don't know if Trayvon's going to go or not. I didn't see the injury report yet, whether or not he'll be available. But I'm pretty cool with the fact that I think they'll be able to get after Sam Darnold, because he ain't really, while he's not immobile, he doesn't have the greatest getaway car. That's not really his strength. In fact, I would want to see him throw the ball while he's running, especially running to his left, trying to throw the ball right-handed. They can't miss tackles. Smith and Jigba and Kenneth Walker are dudes that can really, really make you miss. So wherever those guys get the ball, whenever the first chance at contact happens, that has to be where they stop. I think the Jaguars are going to win. Like I said, I think they have the kicking game showed up last week. Logan Cook punted very, very well. coverage units were a little bit better outside of one kickoff return by the Chiefs. I think they did pretty good. Look for some people who have made plays that aren't necessarily making the biggest impact. Month long, the tight ends, Parker Washington as the third or fourth, sometimes fourth option. And then maybe a little bit more defense also from Travis Hunter and allowing him to play a little bit more both ways. I want to see him get in the end zone. Now, I've called it 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to call it this week. He's going to get in the end zone either by pick six or by scoring on offense. So I expect the Jaguars to win. It's the only way they're going to start shutting people up. And maybe after this week when they're 5-1, it probably won't be until they go next week. If they're 5-1 and then they go off to London and they play and beat the Rams, it'll probably be at that point at 6-1 that people will go, you'll hear all of the Jaguars are for real. Duh. Yeah. Thank you for being on point, Captain Obvious. I think they're for real anyway, and so does most of the league, and I expect them to be victorious on Sunday. You guys, make sure you travel safe. Enjoy all of the football this weekend. Make sure, enjoy that tailgate. Make it just as crazy as the last time the Jaguars are going to play here for about 5 weeks. So make sure you get down there, man, and enjoy the game and be just as loud as can be. Don't know what uniforms they're wearing right now, but I know that's always a big deal to Jaguar fans. Enjoy the tailgate. You guys over on the slab, y'all get it in like always. We'll see you at the stadium on Sunday. And we'll be here as soon as I can navigate back to the office. You'll get a post-game show here on Locked On Jaguars. You guys take care. It's always fun for y'all to join me here on this show. You can join me and Tyler Rowland on another show that is Locked On NFL. That's twice a day. The Madman early in the morning will tell you all of the things that are going on in the news cycle with the use of local experts from around our network, and I'll slide through in the barbershop and try to make sense of all of it in the afternoon. That is Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen, and free, ad-free on Amazon Music. All right, y'all take care, man. I'm glad you guys spent 27 minutes with me today. I don't take your time for granted, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. We will see you, hopefully, at a 5-1 post-game show this Sunday.